There we go. That's my cue. So welcome everybody to our ADHD support group meeting, which is June 2022. And we've got a very interesting topic. So I see there's only women attending tonight, which is probably a good thing. And we've got two speakers tonight. So it's Coach Anita with Dave in the background there. I don't know if he's going to come forth and tell us what he has to know about, about this topic, because he's experienced it, and Bianca. So I want to welcome you all and thank you for joining us. We've got so much to learn from each other, and we only learn from our experiences. So welcome Anita, welcome Bianca, and we're going to start off with Anita and then we're going to cross over to Bianca. So Anita, Coach Anita, welcome and thank you for sharing with us tonight.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Anita. I was a former client of Tracy's, and then I did her coaching course, and now I'm a life coach. And I coach at the Bell House, which is a psychiatric home in Weltevreden Park. So I teach life skills most of the week, and then I also work at a rehab where I do art therapy. And then I have private clients. So this PMDD, so I didn't know that it had anything to do with ADHD. I'm also learning about this now, but I definitely have PMDD. And the person who made me aware of it was Tracy. Sorry, my dogs are barking. I'm just gonna. Okay, so the person who made me very aware of it was Tracy, because I think I phoned her one day and I was just having, I don't even know how to describe it, but I think Tracy was just in such shock at my emotions and my anger and my frustration. It's almost like I became another person. And she said to me, she said, "Have you got your period?" And I was like, "Yeah, but that's got nothing to do with this." And she's like, "No, it does." And after that, I took a few steps back and I thought, yeah, this is not really like me. I'm not this person. So from that day, I started becoming more aware of it. And then I just started recording. I started a journal. And just from that journal, you can see the fluctuations. It's so clear. So it goes from just feeling absolutely depressed and then so angry that everything offends you. Everything is offensive. The smallest thing will just set you off. And you actually can't control yourself. You actually become another person. So from just recording it and being mindful and then setting reminders on my phone and putting it in my diary, I literally put like marks in my diary with a highlighter so that I know that I'm very sensitive when I'm getting my period. And then I spoke to another doctor, I think it was my chiro, and she put me on, they're called estrofactors. So I started taking these. It's basically like a herbal supplement. They're quite pricey, so I get them every month. It's by Metagenetics. And it just helps, it's for healthy estrogen metabolism. So it's just to balance out the hormones. And I have seen such a difference. So just those two simple things, journaling, being mindful, marking the dates, just reminding yourself, and then taking this supplement. So that's been amazing for me. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you. And I haven't had another phone call since she's done that. So it's working.
I know.
It's working well.
But I think someone telling you, hold on,
what
this is just
going on.
Wow. Yeah. So it's so important that we actually talk about it and we're actually mindful of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was good you actually spoke about it, because then you could do something about it. Cool. Thank you, Anita. So I'm going to hand you over now to Bianca, and Bianca's going to tell us all about this. So thank you, Bianca.
Hi, everybody. So I've also got ADHD, and like Anita, I did not know there was a link. So for years, I would suffer from this extreme back pains that felt like I was so stiff. If I was going to bend, I was going to break. Any sudden sudden movement would be so extremely painful. And I could never understand that why I would just go crazy on my whole family a week before my cycle. And once I've had my cycle, I would calm down, but I wasn't able to focus. It was only until about a month or so ago that I found out about PMDD. So I went on an ADHD group and I asked them, does anybody have these symptoms? Because I'd be very clumsy. I can't cook when I'm when a few days before my cycle, because I will definitely burn the food, even if I'm standing right next to the pot. I've got no sense of I get extremely clumsy, so I mess with everything. Whether I'm pouring a glass of milk, I'm bumping into everything, and the one moment I am a ray of sunshine, and the next moment I am Satan's little protege. So I couldn't understand what was going on, but what frustrated me most was the pain, because when I would sleep, every turn I took was painful. So on this group, another lady actually referred me to a different group and said to me, have a look at this. And I actually found out that ADHD makes your PMS worse. So it basically takes your PMS. PMDD is like PMS on steroids. And you just become this impossible person. What I've learned since then is that some of your ADHD medication will either aggravate your PMDD or it just doesn't work. So I would wonder during those weeks, like I'm not functioning, what's happening? Not knowing that your meds just doesn't work during that time. The other thing, what I've learned about it is it hits you around the age of 30, sometimes a bit younger. And the treatment out there is quite scary. So it ranges from hysterectomies. Some people they experience PMDD so bad that they actually beg their gynecologist to remove everything, because that's the only way to actually really calm it down. Other suggestions by doctors would be to get an IUD, which I have, so for me, that's not working. And if you're on the birth control tablet, to actually skip the sugar week and just constantly remain on the hormones. Personally, for me, like I said, I didn't know it existed. I thought I was the only crazy one that would cry with no reason. But I actually also started digging into it further after I spoke to Tracy, because I complained about the pain and that during the day to Tracy. But then she called me that night and she gave me some good news about something. I can't remember what, but I started crying after that. And I was just so emotional. And then I was happy, and then I was crying because I don't know, I was just frustrated with everybody. I think my kids were wondering what the heck. I think they're always wondering that. But it was just like I couldn't control it. And even, so usually when it's my cycle, in the past, I would avoid going anywhere because everything was just, it was just off. And it felt good to finally know that there's other women out there that's actually suffering from PMDD. And it was quite interesting to discover that it was actually linked to ADHD. And so what I've done with my ADHD meds is I actually tried over the week where I was on my cycle to slightly take an increase, and it actually worked. But I also now need to talk to my doctor to slightly increase because I'm on mood stabilizers and an antidepressant, to actually up that a bit during that week, because nothing seems to calm me down. So I've been going through all these different recommendations and all the different suggestions. So some people suggest antihistamines. I'm not sure how that works. I'm still looking into that. But I think for me, just knowing that I'm actually not crazy. And I actually need to give my husband a round of applause for sticking around, because if I listen to what other women's husbands want to do to them, it's actually, by the way, guys, there's actually a group for husbands whose wives have PMDD. So they vent all about it there, and I think to a point it's good that they know that it's real and it's not something just in your head that you're thinking up. So everybody experiences PMDD differently, like with ADHD. So what works for the one might not work for the others. But what we've done in this group is to just give as much as advice as possible, because everybody has been battling for so many years that you get to a point that you just want a solution. And I quite like Anita's approach to it. So what I've also recently started doing, I downloaded an app called My Calendar, and it actually gives you all the symptoms from your cramps, to bloating, to gas, to everything you can think of. You can also put some notes on there, your cycle flow, and it's actually a nice way to keep track of how it's affecting you. The one thing I found was very common is that most women complain about what we call hell week. So your hell week would actually be the week before you start your cycle. And once your cycle starts, you actually calm down, but then your meds don't work if you're ADHD. So yeah, so you're looking at 2 weeks of total crap, of going through a whole lot of crazy. And then as you get to the end of your cycle, it starts phasing out. But 2 weeks is a long time out of a month to actually suffer with this kind of situation. And like I said, for me, the worst part of it was the pain. The cycle I thought was normal. I knew I was a bit out there, but the pain was extremely unbearable. So I don't know if anybody has experienced that symptom that's on you at the moment, but I actually did find some people on the group that said they got the same situation. So basically, I actually also just learned that it was actually in the DSM-5, and PMD is actually recognized. I was just wondering why the information out there is very limited, because I've been looking and researching into ADHD for years. And like I said, I only just recently found out about it. But yes, it's in the the DSM-5. And basically your symptoms according to the DSM-5 would be anger or irritability, anxiety and panic attacks, depression and suicidal thoughts, difficulty concentrating, fatigue and low energy, food cravings or binge eating, headaches, insomnia, and mood swings. So food cravings is another one that's hit me really bad. So when I'm heading for Hell Week, I start binge eating. There was a point at which I used to love the log chocolate, and I would eat that chocolate every single night. I couldn't fall asleep without it, and I couldn't understand why. But it was just my body's way of craving all sorts of things. And apparently I'm not the only one that's eating everybody out of house and home in 1 week. And I'm not much of an eater. So for me to go through, and the beauty part, I think the most beautiful part of that is I eat in my sleep. And that was just, I think, weird, because I would literally be asleep and chewing. And my husband would like, what the heck? You're just hearing munching next to you, but I'm asleep. And so, yes, it comes with a lot of difficulties. It comes with a lot of challenges. But now that I know about it, and now that I'm aware that it's actually not just me, and it's real and it's out there, and thank you, ADHD, for something extra. But I'm on this road, on this journey to discover some more about PMDD and look at different ways of addressing the symptoms. And I think the only way to actually get to a point where you'll find something that works for you, or not the only way, but a good way is like support groups like this, or joining other groups and hearing other people's opinions, because the doctors, like I said, the doctor's strategy is to give you an hysterectomy. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. So it's a whole lot of surgical procedures that don't really work for everybody. And or medication. Like I said, I've got an IUD and I feel like it's done absolutely nothing. And I actually have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, and I'm actually going in there with a whole list of questions to tell the psychiatrist, so did you know what's PMDD and what are we going to do about it? Because like I said, I complained about this for years and nobody actually knew or could tell me what it was. Thanks to social media, now I know. So that is my story of how I discovered PMDD and what it's done in my life. But it has been really destructive at times. I'm also very quiet. I'm not one that actually puts up a performance or goes crazy. But now that I sit back and I look at my actions over the past, in my past, and I look at the times where I actually exploded, and I knew it wasn't a meltdown linked to my ASD, but some crazy person, some crazy persona that took over my body. And I actually realized that it's PMDD. And guys, your partners are suffering. It is so sad, they are suffering. But then again, they also get a 2-for-1. They get a they get a good you and a yell you. I mean, everybody likes variety, so they get to have some change. But yes, it actually does get really bad at times. And for females, with the daily life and struggle that you're already facing as a female, and add to that ADHD struggles, and now you've got PMDD that comes with a bonus of hell week. And if you're going to tell your employer, sorry, I'm going through hell week, so can you just not ask me anything right now? So I think we're all out there trying to cope, trying to find ways and methods that work. I did give the antihistamine suggestion a try. It actually wasn't bad. I actually slept through the night. So it's probably just going to be a whole lot of trial and error for what's going to work for you. I intend looking into Anita's natural remedy as well. And I actually read something very interesting earlier, that they're actually considering giving women time off from work when they're on their period, because I think they're realizing their lives are in danger. And that would actually be a good thing. But then we high maintenance when it comes to PMDD, so we need 2 weeks. And I don't think that's going to fly. So we'd have to actually make a change on that. We'll have to work around that. So I don't know if any of you guys have experienced PMDD and what your strategies are that work for you. But like I said, thus far for me, I'm going to try and have a conversation with my psychiatrist to slightly up my antidepressants. My Ritalin seems to just not work at all. So maybe I'll try and up that as well, depending on what the psychiatrist has to say. But also trying natural remedies and then I think we should have some tiny little traces in stock soon that you can just pop into your bag and take with you, so that you can just pull out there, and maybe she can just coach you through calming down on that whole PMDD trip. But yes, I think, for me, learning life skills has actually helped. Because after I spoke to Tracy, well, at least like this time around, I could speak to Tracy and tell her, this is what I'm experiencing. I don't understand what is going on, without losing the plot and first going crazy and having to do an Anita move. So I actually managed to talk about it, which is one of the greatest skills I've learned thus far, was learning to communicate, which is very difficult for me. And knowing that there's somebody that's got your back, or there's a team there that's got your back, that can actually tell you, you know what, calm down, let's look at this rationally. Before it would get so bad, I would just, like I said, I would explode. And the weirdest part of it all would be I would explode because somebody left a teaspoon on the table, and then I'd walk out and the whole house is rattling, and I'd walk back in and like, so guys, would you like some cake? And I get this look like, is this woman sane? What the heck? You just gave us one hectic explosion, and then 2 minutes later I explode again. So it was just constantly exploding. And I think for my husband and even for my kids, explaining to them what I'm going through and when I'm sane, and having that conversation to say, you know what, if I do react a bit harshly, or if I do seem to lose the plot at times, it's not something that I'm purposely doing to just cause chaos in the house, but I'm trying to manage this, and them understanding it goes a long way to it not becoming a full-blown fight between my husband and I over a teaspoon, or my kids having to endure unnecessary trauma because I've now lost it, because now they can look at me and say, that's not mommy, it's the other her. So I think that like Anita said, understanding and working with it now instead of against it has been the greatest breakthrough for me. The pain I'm still working on, like I said, but I've got a plan for that. So yeah, for me, I think the best, the knowing about PMDD and actually knowing there's a whole community out there that's suffering with the exact same thing, because at some stage my legs would go numb. I would just get dizzy and have to stop. I'd be walking, I'd be fine, I'd be normal, and within seconds I'd go dizzy. And I didn't understand that. It also started affecting my hair. I couldn't brush my hair without losing half of it breaking off all the time, or like it was like I was drained of calcium or something. So I also found this really interesting test that they do, where they actually check your bloods, your stool, and your urine, and they can tell you what you're deficient of and what you got too much of. But the interesting part was also that there's quite a lot of scientific studies about PMDD. And in one study that they did, they actually tested women that were on their cycle, and then prior to that and post that. And that is how they actually determined that your 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 ADHD meds don't work, and that your antidepressants, if you are on antidepressants, are not as effective because it is so severe. The drop in dopamine is actually really bad. So that has been I think that has been a step in the right direction, recognizing and supporting women going through this. I think so too, Anita. We should wear a badge during hell. We can say, you know what, I'm in hell. We just watch out. Or just, I think a badge saying this girl is on fire.
Yeah. Beware, warning, warning.
This girl is on fire. Just.
I'm glad Ollie is here because he's probably
No,
taking
Oliver.
notes.
He's only
And
male here.
He needs to share it because it's actually funny, Bianca, because you said about the DSM manual, and there was an article that I read about. So it is a diagnosis on the DSM manual, but it's characterized as depressive disorder unspecified. And so I think similar to when they were adding in intermittent explosive disorder, RSD, and all of those in relation to ADHD, they always had them under specified. But this specifically, what the research paper was basically explaining is that in minority groups, firstly, minority groups, meaning people of color, and then also in medical research when it comes to women, there's very little research because women are subjected to being people who need to be strong, right? Because everyone gets their period, for example, and so what's so special about yours? And so the research was so in-depth that they actually did research of women being admitted to hospital, and there were certain women, even when they needed to get an IUD, weren't given the opportunity to have anesthesia, for instance, because women are known to be strong. And so there's very, very little research when it comes to PMDD, but like you said, like social media is blowing up. And I think that's very important because we can't wait for the DSM manual and the psychiatrists to catch on. It's like to take note of everybody's experiences and learn from it. Like you don't need a label to put on it because these feelings, these experiences are like super real. It's good that Ollie is here. I hope he's taking notes. Another funny thing though is when he said wear a badge and a T-Rex costume, I sent a friend of mine a mug that says, well, she's not PMDD or anything, but the mug says, "Thou shall not try me." So I think all of you guys, I'm going to send you guys that.
It's amazing.
Just for your husbands to have that alert in the morning, you know, with your coffee. So he knows, you know.
That's so cool. Would anyone else like to talk about the experience?
You know, it's so funny as women, we get like 1 day off. Okay, well, I'm speaking on my experience here, and I don't go through anything that you guys are going through. I think just the day before I want to kill people, but other than that, I don't. You know, thank God, I don't go through what you guys are going through. But it seems like, especially looking at the symptoms of PMDD and the changes in cognitive behavior, it starts like from that PMSing time right up to the week of ovulation and then after your period. So basically, if you look at it and you're talking about taking days off, we have like maybe 5 days in a month that we actually find. So,
Exactly.
It's tough to be woman. Ollie, take notes.
it's actually interesting. Earlier, I was looking on the group, and one lady put up a poll to see how many women's partners felt that they were physically abusive during Hell Week, and the results is quite interesting. So yeah, I think, Sumaya, they should actually take note and give us that time off because their lives are in danger.
So my
But that's the
question,
thing about women, right?
so I'm ADHD, so I'm menopausal now. So I mean, that's also itchy, bitchy, scratchy, whatever you want to call us. But so how can you support your husband or your partner during this time? Because that's important. So you understand that this is how I'm feeling, but how can I support them? Because they don't understand.
Ollie says bunker.
No, Ollie. No. Something more. Come on, coach.
So
I think
it's
just, yeah, warning. I think just be vocal about it. For me, putting it in my diary and putting it on my calendar. So I've got like a color there and I know, and that's really helped me. So when you're feeling those feelings, you know why. So for me, just having like, because I've got to have everything up, it's got to be very visual. And just having it, because then you overreact and then you're looking at your calendar, oh, okay, well, I know why. So, I mean, that in itself helps you regulate those feelings. So that's, I think, how you support the other person is by, you've got to be mindful and then tell them, it's Hell Week. I'm dealing with this. I've got PMDD. Is that how we say it now? This is new. I've got another thing. PMDD. I think just communicating and saying, this is what's happening. And this is why I'm sensitive. This is why I'm reacting the way I am. I think just knowing it in yourself helps you regulate it.
So I think regulation is also about realizing how he's going to feel. Speaking to him, communicating. So how does he feel when you like this? Because, I mean,
I just want to just beware.
No, aware, not beware, aware.
Beware. And beware.
Yeah, I think in the circumstances, knowledge is power, and yes, communication is key. And then the only other thing is to find coping strategies and ways to deal with it. So it might not eradicate it completely, but looking at ways to minimize it, that definitely helps. And I think that is on us, because if 60% of women's husbands feel that they are psychologically and physically abusive during Hell Week,
Sure.
it's a huge percentage. So yeah, I think even with because we're not only explosive with your partners, but also with friends and colleagues out there, and not everybody understands, because not everybody's experiencing Hell Week. And at least you're not going to experience Hell Week, Tracy, because apparently once you hit menopause, people are actually going for chemical menopause to stop PMDD. That's how severe some people is experiencing it.
I'm lucky I never had that, but I'm learning.
Yes.
I'm learning from Anita. I'm learning from you. Samaya?
I've got the hot flashes, and I've lost that PMDD, and I've swapped it with hot flashes. I don't know which one is worse, really.
And the magical muffin we have in our stomachs, they just explode. It's just like we're just amazing.
You know, Ollie said something interesting. He says about time blindness and your partner not realizing that it could be that time, and don't assume that they know. I think instead of the woman just relying on our apps and our period trackers, because what the app usually does is, Oliver, I'm talking to you, is it will send you a notification to say, are you experiencing these symptoms? Because basically it tracks your symptoms. So maybe the guys can get the app, and then they know when it's coming. So instead of just relying on the woman to communicate it, because communication in that moment, I know we're laughing about it now, but communication in that moment can probably be really difficult. And especially as women, I think we also have this kind of defensiveness when people bring it to our attention. Like, okay, Tracy, you know, brought it to Anita's attention, which is a different scenario. But if your partner has to bring it to your attention, you'd be like, it's not the hormones, you know, it's A, B, and C. So I think communication in that moment is going to be really hard. So maybe the apps and the trackers will do good for both you and your partner, not just you.
So do you think it's hard? So when Nita reached out, she was like in a really bad space. She thought it was all about her, how bad she was and how terrible she was. And so that was really hard for her because she's in a broken moment. And then realizing, hey, it's just my period. It really made a lot of relief for her. It's not about her being bad or unkind or nasty or horrible. It's just where I'm at. And I think that has helped you, Anita, realizing that this is really something that you struggle with. And it's a real thing. It's not just a horrible thing, a nasty thing, a period thing.
It was like instant relief when you told me. It just took me out of that whole zone. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So it actually took me out of that horrific state, just like looking at it, because I was so absorbed. It's like being in a tornado, and you know, just you saying that to me just took me out of it. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's PMS. It just clarified so much for me. And I think it's so important because we do take it personally. We do. And then you think like a week goes by and you're like, well, why did I react like that? I don't care about it now. And then you get so embarrassed. You're like, why did I speak to that person like that? Why was it so important to me? Why did I feel so strongly at that time? And how come I don't feel like that now? Like here I am back at the vet after I've made this big scene. And I'm like, oh, it's really not such a big deal. So it's quite, so I think it's just, yeah, being very aware that there are just feelings and they will go away. And it's not you. It's got nothing to do with you as a person. You're not a bad person. It's literally your hormones going crazy.
Actually linked to that, Anita, is that RSD actually gets much worse during Hell Week and during a cycle. So everything you were describing completely fits in with an RSD mindset situation, and it actually does exacerbate that situation. And I think like Sumaya was saying, when Tracy pointed it out to you, it was less. It felt less than an attack. Sorry. Yes. So if your partner would point it out to you, it feels more like, excuse me, what are you trying to say? I'm unbalanced, or, you know, so yes. Yeah. So RSD is quite bad during that time as well.
Yeah, I think a woman, definitely Tracy telling me helped. I think if Dave or my mom, who triggers me, had told me, I would have told them all very quickly. But Tracy, you know, I think it was just such good timing that she was there during that episode and that I called her. I think we were speaking about something that wasn't even, I don't think I called you because I was feeling like that. I called you for something else. And you were like, what the heck is going on with you?
You did, but you were still willing to talk about it. It bothered you so much. So I think that's the difference, that you actually were willing to talk about it. You felt comfortable enough to say, oh, can you believe this? And that's being vulnerable, and we're scared of being vulnerable.
There's another solution that Tracy might kick me off the group for mentioning. So Bianca spoke about the pain, right? And I saw this device that people are ordering online for their partners, because Tracy is asking how do we get the partners to understand or support them. So it's basically like an electromagnetic device that you place onto your partner's tummy, right? Which is nothing close to what women experience, but it will give them a slight taster
Yes, I've seen it.
onto
Actually,
what,
like
and
shock.
there's
You get
levels
a
of it,
cramp.
right?
It gives
Yeah, and
them
so
a
you
cramp.
dial it up, yes, and you dial it up and they get to experience a cramp, and then they take that same dial up and they put it on the woman, and the woman's like, that's like, you know, the first day of my period, that's not even. So I think like that could be like a good device for the men to understand how intense it is. It's very bad advice, but I just thought it'd be fun.
I need to try that.
Maya, actually, on that same thing, there was actually an article that was true. Some man was experiencing a problem of sort and he went to a doctor, and the doctor prescribed something, but in the script, I think that the level of estrogen or something in the medication was actually quite a lot. And he actually went home, took the medication for a month, and didn't understand all the emotions. And he actually went through a lot of female emotion and feeling, and he went through this whole thing until he couldn't understand. It was just not himself. Went back to the doctor, and they realized, obviously, then gave him another script. But he wrote in sympathy, saying to women that are almost now understand that it's not, how can I say, deliberate on your part in doing what you're doing, but it's something that it just takes over. And now I can sort of relate to what is happening. And his partner, actually, he has been more sympathetic now to a lot of circumstances that happen and stuff like that, purely because the fact is that he also had experienced it. But obviously that was by default. It wasn't anything that was conscious. It just happened to play out. So yeah, so like you're saying is maybe they need to have something to have a sense of, you know, just to understand and have that sympathy and empathy for partners going through, you know, a difficult time.
Mm. You know, as much as I joke about it, I'm actually contemplating, and Tracy can arrange for, there we got Oliver as a volunteer, and we can actually run an experiment to see how much empathy we can draw out of the men. And Graham, you can call Graham. He's always been tough. We got a lot of men. But I think Ollie is right when it says when he says the shock of your biochemistry like changing. Because it does happen suddenly. Yeah. Like you don't like have a warning, as much as we're saying like a week before and whatever. And I'm talking from not even this diagnosis. I'm talking about just normal woman stuff. Like it does give you that shock, and you question your sanity and your emotional stability and all of that in that time. I'm curious though, you guys spoke about craving sugar. Is there a craving for carbs as well?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Pasta,
you know those hot rolls with
pasta.
Right, guys.
Carbohydrates are sugar, by the way.
Bianca,
From the scientists,
what
carbohydrates are sugar.
Sorry.
What do I do for the pain?
For the pain, because I don't really have the pain. For me, I take Nurofen. There's a Nurofen period, and I take 2. The minute I can feel, well, I actually know when, so I'll have it like with me all the time. So what do you take for? Because
at the moment, nothing, because I don't get I've tried the Nurofen, so I don't get the cramps. It's just my back. It's like it goes completely stiff, like I can't move. And if I happen to go down a stair, or if I happen to laugh or have a fright, it's
and you don't have endometriosis at all?
No.
Sure, no. That sounds quite bad.
Not at all.
So let's think of solutions. Closing off, let's think of solutions. So how can we move forward and be solution focused on this? Because that's what we do, practical solutions.
So definitely the tracking, keeping a diary is one of the main things I think that helps.
Okay, get meds, Oliver says.
Yes, get meds.
I'm actually going to try to increase my ADHD meds on that week as well and see if it helps.
So I think talking about it and saying this is going to be a difficult week for me. Can you please support me? And this is how I'd like you to support me. Because we don't say that. We just say, I'm irritable, I'm grumpy. So how can your husband or your partner support you? And then when they're going through a hard time, remember it's both ways. How can you support them?
So what I usually do is I tell Sadiq, yeah, week has started, so I'm not cooking. So he knows that's the first indication that when I stop cooking, it's not happening. And yeah, so then he's prepared for the rest to come, because whatever I find out, any information I get, I share with him so that he's aware that I'm going through through Hell Week, or I'm having a hard time. So yes, Scott, but also I think if we look at focusing more on giving them skills, or giving them a way to deal with it, or a way to be more supportive in during that week. So like we have the ADHD with how it affects your partners. I think also just highlighting that during that period of time, you know, this is what we go through. We understand that we can be a bit much. But I think they can also act as your filter. So when you're about to explode and they know you're going through Hell Week, they can actually, you know, ask you to calm down, or just say something like Hell Week, or, you know, just to keep you mindful that, you know what, you might be overreacting. And if it's a conversation that happens beforehand, it won't be taken as offensive when it happens in, you know, when he says something like Hell Week, or just that reminder to let you know that you're a bit much.
Yeah, I think Oliver has a point when he says for the woman to be receptive to hearing from their partner. So maybe you can have like approved list of words, and it's definitely not calm down. So like approve things that, and then that would make you receptive towards receiving what they have to say, and not take it personally, as hard as that's going to be. But to have that accountability when they do, you know, draw your attention to what's going on.
Okay, anybody else with some helpful advice? Yeah.
This has been so helpful, really. I feel like, whew, I'm not the only one who's going through this.
I think what's helped me,
not just me.
I used to drink a lot of chamomile tea at night when I couldn't. So I used to work in restaurants. So I had like a day job and a night job. So, and when I went home and I couldn't sleep, I took chamomile tea, and that calmed me down a lot so that I can quickly fall asleep. And when I had these PMS moments, that also used to help me, because it is interesting, Bianca, you mentioned antihistamines or things, but I take it every day, because if I don't, I start to itch, and I will also not sleep. So it's interesting how antihistamine can also maybe help. But yes, that chamomile tea was saving me a lot. It helped for me.
It's interesting that you mentioned about the itching, because I have these hives that flare up, and I never understood why, until the other day when I read a research article that actually said your anxiety can actually trigger a reaction, because I would get it for no apparent reason. I didn't eat anything. It would just start popping up all over. And that's what happened now the other morning on Tuesday morning when I was busy getting done to go to Tracy, and I just started suddenly having hives all over my body. So usually a few Allergex takes them away. But also during my hell week, when I took the Allergex, I actually slept because I usually take a mood stabilizer, which knocks me out. But during that week, I still struggle to sleep.
Yeah.
Well,
So I think the
So do
awareness,
you think your
what's
doctor's
going,
going to tell you to, sorry.
oh, hello.
So sorry, Bianca, do you think your doctor's going to try and increase your mood stabilizers at this time? Do you think it will
No,
work?
I'm not going to ask him to increase my mood stabilizer. I think I'll just try out the Allergex for a while and see how it goes. He's given me a lot of leeway when it comes to my antidepressants and my stimulants. So I'll just mention to him that this is what I'm experimenting with, because he's given me that leeway to adjust as I go along. But yeah, I don't think I can. I'm gonna take the route of increasing my mood stabilizer, because then I'm gonna be very groggy the next day, and then I'm going to be worse. So I'd rather just try the Allergex, or maybe discuss other options with him. Also, what I've been trying to do is try to just use techniques or that I can that helps me calm down and relax. And so for me, when the anxiety kicks in, because there are times when I have severe anxiety or panic attacks when I'm about to fall asleep. So then just practicing some mindfulness and doing some so I do the mindfulness. I don't know if you've heard about the one with that they do with in the armies or something like that, with people who struggle to sleep, where you relax every part of your body. And so I actually try doing that. Yeah, so I think for me, I was on a really, really high dose of mood stabilizer, to the point that I was non-responsive. I actually weaned myself off it because it was just too much.
thank you. Thank you, Bianca. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, everybody tonight. I hope it's helped. Now, if you've got some tips.
Before you go off, let's hear from the one brave man that that stayed on. He was trying to say something earlier.
Come on, Ali.
Hello, ladies. Well,
Hello.
as the only male fraternity in this posse, I think it's probably valuable insight from the insider's perspective. And the reason I attended this is because Maxine also struggles with incredible cramps. So we also suspect she's on the...
Maxine's his fiance. So they know who.
Sorry. See, that one. She's my significant other, and she struggles terribly with this. So it's been quite insightful to hear what's going on. In terms of the coaching aspect, I suppose, because Tracy wants practical advice. Otherwise, this is sort of like a half done webinar. I suppose from the receiving perspective, just be open and communicate with your partner, because if they don't know what they will never know what you're going through. We're not biologically programmed that way, and also means that we don't click when you are going through what you're going through. You just get a happy person one day, and the next day is like, oh, okay. So I think the biggest thing, as in with any relationship, is just communicate with your partner when you're going through it, so that they also know how best to accommodate you. Because if they don't, it's just going to be a recipe for disaster. I suppose the next thing would also be tell your partner how to help you. So some people like chocolates, some people just need to be locked away in a dark room and we pretend you don't exist. Other people just need comfort. So I think because if you're in a relationship, obviously your partner's there to support you. So help them help you by giving them what they need, because guaranteed they're probably very keen to try and help. They just don't know how. And it's a dual problem, because you both have either not communicated about it, or you've all silently agreed not to talk about it, which is interesting, because it's something that's going to be there for quite a long period of time. In fact, most marriages start at 25. That's going to be about 25, 30 years of your marriage you're going to be dealing with this type of issue. So from that perspective, just help them get the tools to suit you, because you're all going to be different in what you need.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ali. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight, and I hope it was helpful. And yeah, I look forward to us chatting again next month. Thank you once again, Ali and Samaya, Bianca, Anita, everybody else who's joined. It was really, really, really great. And have a good week and a good month, and we'll see you next month. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.